and welcome back to Billionaires in Boxers. I am joined by my co-host Justin, as always, and our special guest today is Amber Khan. Hi, Amber.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Very well, actually. I'm quite excited to be here today.
No, do you know, this is going to be a really interesting discussion. So content is something that's massively important to all of us. Amber is a content specialist. In fact, I love her strapline. We were talking about it just before we came on air. The stand out, reach more, and convert big. I think that says it all. Amber, do you want to kind of give us a little bit of an idea as to who you are, what you do, and let us know about Repurposed Den?
I think we've already spoken about, I'm a mom of three. I usually call myself a slightly cuckoo in the head mom of three. Also an international best-selling author, and I founded two companies, Grow Business and Repurposed Den. Currently, I help businesses that are solving the world's most meaningful problems stand out, reach more, and convert big using their existing content. Why do we do this? It's because we want to use social media content to bring people together with shared values, thoughts, and interests. But most importantly, and this is what I love to talk about more than what I do, is that the thing we're most proud of is that when you or anybody invests in their company's future through our work, they're also creating a meaningful change in the world, because each month they choose to continue working with us. It helps us provide safe space and support for children in crisis for another month.
Wow.
Wow.
I mean, look at that for an intro. Think lots of things that we love: helping people, giving back, and content. So this is going to be nice and juicy. I'm really looking
I
forward
mean,
to this. I am.
there's definitely I would say, a heartfelt payoff to end of the day, we're all trying to stand out in business, and people want to see what you're about. What's your mission, vision, and values. And this aligns with your values as an organization, and people find connection with that. So I mean, that's beautiful. That because in end of the day, why we do what we do
Yeah.
is so that we can make an impact in our environment, be it a macro impact or a micro impact. So I mean, that's beautiful, Emma.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's something very close to my heart, and I think that's the reason why I want to get up every morning and do what I do, because I know there is so much more at stake. There's so much more that will come as a result of it. It's not just like money in my bank, but there's so much more that we can do with this.
It's knowing your why, isn't it?
Yeah.
I remember when I first set up my business, I remember watching Undercover Boss, right? I used to love that show. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but at the end of Undercover Boss, all the people that they've seen in the show, well, if they've been good and been good employees, they get some sort of massive reward and they get treated. And I remember watching it, and I always get quite emotional. I'm quite an emotional guy anyway, but I remember watching people who have nothing who work for these companies being given a home and stuff. And I always thought I'd love to be able to do that. And that became more of a why than actually earning money and being a successful business. It wasn't about me. I have a vision, which is that everybody who works with me, I never had a home growing up. So I want everybody that's associated with me to own at least one home. That's
Yeah,
my goal. And
awesome.
that takes a lot to get to, because trying to sort one person out of the home is one thing. Trying
Yeah.
to sort 18 people out of the home is something
Yeah.
completely different. But it gets me out of bed, so I completely agree with you. And you know what? I'm glad we get the opportunity to do this, because there's a lot of misconceptions around content, I find.
Yeah.
Even now we're experiencing it. So people are saying to us, "Oh, you're so lucky that you've been, it's all right for you. You get to put your content out on TV." And it's like, yeah, but you didn't see the 6, 7 years of podcasts that no one listened to, and the videos that when we
Yeah,
first put them up did like 56 views in a month. You didn't see those
yeah,
days. It was
yeah.
you've got to start somewhere, and I'm hoping that throughout our discussion today, especially in the brainstorming session, we'll be able to give people a few actionable steps that they can take, that will allow them to kind of do that as well. So,
But you didn't give up. You stayed consistent,
oh,
right?
of course, well, I
That's
enjoyed
it.
it. I mean, the thing was,
Exactly.
when I was doing interviews with people, my attitude was, I'm enjoying the people I'm interviewing. So if other people want to come and enjoy this too, great, but I'm enjoying it anyway. So I
I
had
think I
already
think
won. Look, so we have a question today, which is just a question we get asked quite a lot, which is a lot of the experts out there say create more content, create more content, create more content. It's kind of the mantra. But what does that actually mean? Um, how do you start? What content? Do you just record yourself staring at a camera? Do you just start a podcast talking about nothing? How do people get started? So Amber, I'd love to bat that over to you if we could start with you. Where do people get started?
First, I want to share this, that I didn't know this myself when I started out. So I made a lot of mistakes as well. I was stuck with that as well, what kind of content to produce. And even when I did, it wouldn't resonate with the people, with the audience, on the social media platforms. And it took me a while to figure this out. And it's basically this, that a majority of us start with, either we start with our products, which are what? So, I have created this awesome product and service. You have to check it out. It's the best in the world. I guarantee it. And because we have not created a following yet, this just falls on deaf ear. But then there are other ones who start off with how. So they start with educational stuff, which is very good. Of course, we should be sharing all the how-to videos. The education, whatever knowledge we have, the skills that we have to share it. But again, we're also making this mistake of, there's so much information out there already. So many people are producing content on various different channels, YouTube, podcasts, and whatever. And so, if people don't know you, they're going to think, why should I learn this from you? Why should I come to you? There's like a zillion other people, they may already know somebody more experienced in that niche, so they'll be going, why? So again, we've made a mistake. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be sharing the how-to videos. You just didn't get the sequence right. What we should be starting off with is the why videos, what we just spoke about, is our philosophy. We have to share our philosophy with the world, which is basically, what do we stand for? What do we believe in? What we stand against, and our opinion of the world, of the life that we're living. That is your own philosophy. So everybody has their own philosophy. You have your own, I have my own, everybody has their own. So when you do that, you start to create a following who can associate with you, and your message resonates with them, and your values, the people who have similar values to yours will start will start to be attracted towards your content. So basically, what happens is that you start building a small following, and they become your real fans, and eventually your buyers. So what I say to, when people just starting out, if people are just starting out and they're thinking about what kind of content to produce, is to just be authentic and vulnerable. That's the kind of content you want to start off with. That's the first type of content. Start off there, just your daily struggles, what went bad and what went right today. What was the plan? Did it work out? What do you believe in? What are your values? Share those, your beliefs. What do you want to see in the world? Start off with those videos, then move on to the how-to videos, share your knowledge, and of course then you share your what videos. Okay, now you've got a following, you tell them the amazing thing you're doing, the amazing product or service you've got, and talk about it. So that's the sequence I would go with.
Amber, so would you say there's a recipe to engage your potential following from start to finish? Have you perfected that recipe as such?
I wouldn't say I have perfected that, but because I'm still learning every day. When I post stuff on social media,
changes every day as well. That's the thing.
Every day. Just for example, I've noticed that in the past week, the engagement on LinkedIn has gone down, and I don't know for what reason. It's not coronavirus, because it's been there for past few weeks, and the last 3 weeks were very, very good on LinkedIn. The past week, just the 1 week, something's happened. Don't know, if it's the algorithm, whether it's maybe what's happening in the world. Sorry.
I thought it was the weather. I thought the weather improved. The weather, because suddenly there was loads more Instagram snaps and not as many LinkedIn posts. So that kind of told me that everyone was outside.
Another thing I was thinking of, maybe it was because of the Easter breaks, that people have still not, come back to work, sort of. They haven't come back. They're still enjoying the Easter break. So that could be a good
chocolate coma from Easter Sunday.
Yeah. Absolutely. Chocolate coma. I like that. Yeah. That's probably it. But point being that you know every day the social media platforms are different. You don't know what's happening, but there's a general guideline. You can follow the general rules, which is basically you have to engage on all of these platforms. So and if you've chosen one, you know, and in fact, starting off, just choose one, because you're gonna you'll feel overwhelmed if you're on all of the platforms at the same time starting off. So whatever platforms is best for yourself, you know, LinkedIn is more ideal for B2B. Facebook is more of a friendly type B2C. If you have physical products, people choose that platform first, and you engage. Even if you don't have content to share yet, and you're still thinking about what kind of content to share, just engage with other people's content, their posts, and what happens is that you will start to garner the attention. That's the way algorithms work on all of these platforms, that when you comment on other people's posts, especially an influencer's post on a regular basis, you will get seen more.
What we are going to do after the break is we're going to take a zoom in on this market and see how we can actually put these practices into play, how we can start them to generate some business and lead generation, or potentially even some sales directly from it and make some money from your content. So we'll see you after the break.
Africans Unlocked Season 1.
Welcome back. Let's dive straight back in. Before the break, Amber was telling us sort of content and even engagement with people when you haven't got the content is a great way to kickstart that algorithm, to start these search engines and these social media networks noticing who you are. Amber, I'm sure you agree with this, and I heard a piece of advice actually that I borrowed about a year or two ago, and it was a Gary Vaynerchuk piece of advice. Now, there's a lot of stuff that he puts out, but this particular piece was like a piece of gold. And he said, at the end of every single day, go on to all of your social media profiles, do a search for the things that are most relevant in your industry, and find the most commented, the most liked, the most active posts, and aim to be the most interesting comment in the comment section and ask a question. He said, too many people just plug their own stuff and say, this is good, but check out my podcast. Don't do that. Give value. That person has shared value by putting the content out. Watch the content, engage with them about it, ask them an intelligent question, and get the conversation going. And you'll be surprised just how many things come from there. I imagine you'd probably subscribe to the same school of thought.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I do that with influencers in my niche, say marketing stuff. You know, I want to follow them and I want to comment on their posts as regularly as possible because, of course, they have the audience. You know, they've got the audience. I don't, that big an audience. So the whole idea is that if I can be seen, I will drive some traffic to my profile and to my content, and eventually, and that's how I've been growing on LinkedIn actually. Purely organically through commenting on influencers' posts, and then people start to notice me, and they come get in touch with me, they DM me, engage with my posts. So yeah, absolutely. I follow the same strategy from Gary Vee, that you have to be, if you can't produce your own content, or you're not in a position to do it yet, you haven't figured it out, just start engaging on other people's posts, and choose your influencers, 3 to 5 top influencers in your niche that you like this, would like to engage with, you like their content, and just be a regular. Just be a regular there.
I'll give you there's a guy coming on a show in a few days' time, so keep your eye out for him. And he runs a few sites, but one of them I want everyone to go and sign up for right now. It's free at the moment, completely free to try and engage with guests. This is a great place to start. It's matchmaker.fm. Matchmaker.fm. We'll put this on the screen as well. And what you can do is you can create both a guest and a show profile. So if you're looking for guest speaker spots on other people's podcasts, it lines you up with them, and you can engage with them, see what they're all about, see the kind of guests they're looking for. You create, it's almost like a mini profile that says, here's who I am, and here's my social media links. Think about sort of like a marketing one sheet style thing online. They have that, they can click on it. But if you've got a story to share and some content to share, but don't know how to get going with that content, podcast guesting is a great place to start. Something you said though about getting platforms right, because I think it was weird when I first started off in social media, because it was still quite all new to me and everything as well. I subscribed to the school only because it was the only school I thought I'd heard of, which was create lots of content and share it everywhere. Be on every site, have a presence everywhere. The backlinks are always going to be good. And actually, I realized that does you more harm than good, because if somebody is engaging with you and goes onto your Twitter profile and realizes you've got 15 followers, you lose credibility. You don't gain credibility by having the account. And when you mentioned LinkedIn, it's so funny because I was putting the same videos on Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Okay. YouTube was getting 125 views, thereabouts. Twitter was probably getting 25, 26 retweets, and maybe 500 people watch it. I used to delete content from LinkedIn if it didn't do a minimum of 2,000 views in a day. That was so LinkedIn was completely different. Lots of people would engage. You'd get a lot less comments underneath, but a lot more private messages regarding it, which is ultimately what you're doing it for. You're doing it so that people can engage with you, and you can see what comes from it. So
exactly. Basically with the content, initially what we're selling with the content, like I spoke about, sharing a philosophy, what we're sharing is our values, what we stand for. And then eventually with our content, we're selling the click, that's all what we're doing, with the content, we're selling the click. And then we have to show them the next step. Where should they go? What should they do? Maybe watch another piece of content from you, or maybe somewhere else you want to take them. But it's about selling that click, and you can only sell that click by garnering their attention in a way that
I mean, I guess we've specifically talked about almost utilizing content to drive business, but content can almost be the business itself, can't it? There's lots of people now. There's a whole generation of YouTubers making lots of money. It's not just about creating content that's how to and give back, is it? There's actually a lot of people out there wishing to binge entertainment, fashion, advice, lifestyle. How do you think people should get started with that? It's chicken and egg. Do you have the audience and then present content to them, or do you have content and then find the audience?
No, let's say, if we're talking about youngsters here, let's say, millennials, Gen Z starting off. I was actually talking to my son, he's almost 18, just yesterday, and we were talking about, he's at the moment sorting out, he doesn't know what he wants to do. And I was like, maybe it's time you start a podcast, and just share, who you are, and then what kind of people you want to interview. And the whole idea is this. Okay, obviously somebody starting off is not going to have an audience yet. But the idea is that when you start interviewing people whose values aligns with yours, and you want to get them as guests, you are also learning. So youngsters, it's a great platform for them to learn, and then share those knowledge bites with the audience. So you interview somebody first, you get a lot of information, and you put your own spin to it, and then you create so many other posts out of it, sharing what you learned from that guest, right? As a youngster, I'm talking about. That's a great strategy for them to do.
Right.
Yeah, because eventually, after they've done like 50 to 100 episodes or something, right, they will be seen as an expert in a particular niche, right? And not only that, by that time they would have gained some kind of following who listen to their podcasts on a regular basis, right? And from there they will find out that what do they actually want, because once you have an audience, you can pretty much ask them straight off the bat, what would you like to see? So I've seen a lot of young podcasters. They started off just podcasting, interviewing people in their particular niche, whether it's crafts or if it's marketing or business or personal development. And what happened that as their podcast grew, they started offering podcast marketing services, or how to create a podcast. Wow. And they got speaking gigs from it, because once you're known, people want you on their status, be it offline or online. So a lot more things happened once you put yourself out there.
Well, I can certainly testify to that. I only had a couple of hundred listeners on my podcast, and I went on a huge rant about VR and AI and how I think that it needed to be gamified more so that we could then use it in a more commercial setting and sell adverts to it. But you can't put adverts where there's nobody looking. And I went on a huge, great big rant about it, and ended up being invited as a guest speaker to go and talk about the commercial usage of AI in China at this huge tech event. Ended up on the front cover of Tech Asia, which was crazy. But it was, wow. but I mean, look, stop.
Wait.
It happens when you put your
pictures.
Oh, of course, yeah, but I'm fat. I can put them up.
Yeah.
I'll share what I'll
put them up on the group. So we'll definitely be putting them up on the group.
I'll put them up in here as well.
Yes, I would like to see the evidence, please.
I was a fat man on stage talking about VR. And I was also jet lagged to hell, because I'd never done the journey that far before, and I had no idea how rough I was going to feel. I'd had to land in Beijing first. We were supposed to be doing a day's work in the office. By 8:30 a.m. I was asleep on the boardroom floor. I just need a minute, and then I went in there, put my bag down, and just went to sleep. I was flat out exhausted, and then I couldn't sleep that night, and then we flew to Shanghai, and then by the time the event was on the next day, I looked horrific.
I just wanted to find out, were you wearing a Batman t-shirt?
I was not wearing a Batman t-shirt. I was not wearing.
That's what the problem was. You weren't ready. You weren't suited up for this.
See, this is probably it. I mean, I probably got a better response if I hadn't worn Batman.
If you were,
actually,
yeah,
to be fair, the response was good. I'm joking, but yeah, I mean, maybe I should just do all of my things in a Batman suit from now on. Go full hog and put the there we go. Okay, look, when we come back after the break, we're going to have a good discussion on how we can actually take these actionable steps. So we've looked at kind of both sides of the coin now, haven't we? We've looked at how can businesses drive traffic towards what they're doing utilizing content, and we've looked at how can you make content into a business. So after the break, we'll check that out.
Africans Unlocked to Season 1.
Welcome back. Okay, so let's get straight into my favorite part of the show, as you all know, which is called brainstorming. This is the part of the show where we essentially have the brainstorming session that we would have on Zoom or Cisco, just as we are now, but we allow you behind the scenes access to kind of see what we would do. Hopefully this will give you some actionable steps so that you can start to take action with your own content, be that to drive it towards a brand, a business that you're hoping to set up, or even just to sort of get your face out there and start, as Amber said, having yourself seen as an expert.
But I think what we can say as a collective is that wearing a Batman t-shirt will definitely up your viewership. And just,
Yeah.
Amber, is this something that we can kind of put out there, or just a vague statement?
No. And absolutely. I mean, I've often thought about wearing She-Ra. I don't know if any of you guys watch She-Ra. This is from my time.
You should do it.
No, I remember that. I don't know about Phil. I don't know about Phil.
I was more of a Smurfs fan. I remember
He-Man. Yeah, there we go.
That's it. I'm She-Ra.
I don't feel as cool anymore because I just want to be a Smurf. I just want to sit here in a big white hat and big blue face.
Different generation.
Yeah.
I tell you what. Once we hit, I'll work out with the producer what this number is. But once we hit a certain number of viewers, I will do an entire serious episode dressed as a Smurf. That's a deal. I will do that.
All right, I'm down with that. But
I will
then
definitely
we got
do that.
Yeah.
Then I will wear.
Please ask me on again.
Yeah. Oh, you should definitely. Maybe we should just every now and then, like once a month, we should do a fancy dress special where we just carry on and have a normal conversation with somebody that's signed like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle outfit.
That's entertainment, That's
That is
entertainment.
entertainment.
Education and entertainment together. Yeah.
Business and entertainment. That's what it's all about. Okay, so look, let's say we did want to do this. Let's say we were let's do it in two stages. Let's say we were a business first and foremost. So we've got a business. It might not be one of the fields that we would call, let's call sexy. So it might be one of the sort of accountancy stuff. It might be a law firm. How can they create content that's going to be useful and relevant to their audience, that's going to be interesting, but is also going to position them as an expert? Because obviously they're not notoriously sexy industries, are they?
Yeah. Before they even go ahead with sharing educational stuff on, let's say it's an accountant and they're sharing stuff about, how to save money or how to save on taxes, that's good. That they should all be sharing it, but whether be it in blog form or podcasts or videos. Videos actually are the best, but some people hesitate from it, and that's fine. If they don't want their face on it, they can start off with podcasts or blogs. Blogs not so much anymore, but still, there's some content out there. But the point being, before you do that, I believe that every business owner they need to be the face of their business, just like Steve Jobs was, and all these big brands, they always put their personal brand on top of what they're doing, and by doing that, what they're doing is sharing their philosophy. Again, they're sharing their why, because a brand, you cannot say an accountancy firm, Jack's accountancy firm believes in this. I mean, you can say it, but people won't really associate themselves with it, because it's a company, right? You want to see a person, you associate with a person, not a business, right? So when a person behind that business shows what they stand for, right? So it's the owner or whoever, it could, maybe they put somebody else in that place, doesn't matter. A face behind a business, right? They share their values, their philosophy, and then they go on to share the content, right? How it can help their customers, their ideal audience, and then talk about, well, here's how we can do it. But I think a lot of people miss out. A lot of these companies, like offline companies like accountancies or plumbers or electricians, local businesses, they don't put a face to the business, because that's very necessary for people to be able to know that why for them to choose you compared to others, right? So it's all about why choose you when there's so many others out there. So you have to stand out in some way. And the only way you can stand out these days is not by being the lowest, the cheapest price, right? It's by sharing your values and your beliefs. And then there will be some people who would love you for it, and some people would hate you for it. They may not agree with your philosophy at all, and that's fine. They're not your customers. They're not your following. That's okay. You don't want to be doing business with them. Right. So there will always be, followers. There'll always be detractors. That's fine. That's what you want to do with your philosophy.
I mean, would you say, Amber, that, mean, I know you said that, you know, you could do a blog or a podcast or something like that if you're not necessarily keen to be, you know, you put your face out there. But, you know, I come from an old school business environment where, you know, I mean, this is new for me, just to do this type of engagement.
Yeah.
It's difficult because I'm old school. I like to shake a hand, look at a man in the eye, or a woman in the eye, or a client in the eye, and so they can meet me, understand who I am as a person. And because ultimately we know this, people buy from people, they don't buy from companies. You know, so unless you've created a brand that is that stands alone, ultimately the average Joe, the average business is, you know, they're buying from people. So would you not say that it's more, you know, even it's out your comfort zone to be on a video to someone, but the reality is that's how we now engaging with people. So should you not be putting your face out there, regardless of your own insecurity or challenges with being on camera?
True. These days, I mean, I would say if somebody's starting out today, so say, 2020, yes, I would say, put all those hesitancies behind you, and start off with video. That's the best way. I know people worry about, have we got the right equipment? Do I always have to put makeup on? For women, that's a big issue, you know. And 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 Justin. But I give them an example of Marie Forleo. I don't know if you've heard of her, Marie Forleo. She's like the next gen Oprah. I love her.
Nice.
This is how she started off. She's my age group, so very proud of that. So
So she's young still, quite young still then.
of course, I am young. Yeah, as long as you don't see my 18-year-old. Yeah, I'm
You
young.
started, but you were very, very young, Amber. So we understand. No judgment here.
So this is how she started off with. She was producing video content, but if you watch her earliest videos, she is actually sitting in her PJs in a friend's flat. So it's like a crabby kind of sofa. And literally in her PJs, just sharing her knowledge, whatever she's got to say. Some videos were about how her day went, and some videos were actually about I walked up into the shop and they were worried about this, so I told them this. So she would share her own business or personal development experience, and it just grew from there. So she said that in her case, because she started very earlier on, for first 5 years she did not make any money. But she did not stop. It did not any money from those videos. I mean, like from the YouTube channel that she started off with, right? She did not make any money, and people would have given up way before that, right? If you're saying that for 5 years, and not much is happening with that YouTube channel, but she stayed consistent, and now she is like a gazillionaire, and she only sells her course once a year. And I think the first time she opened it was 4 years ago. And within a day, she had made $15 million. Just, the first time it sold. But the point being, because she had created such a huge following in those 5 years, millions of followers, that when it came for her to actually sell her product and service, people were like, already sold. They were like, yeah, here's my credit card. Please take my money. So,
What always interests me about businesses that with millennials, though, just touching on that point and building that audience, is that so many people in their business don't realize that the most valuable asset in terms of content isn't sat in their marketing department, it's sat in most of the other departments in their business. But that's also the thing that they're most terrified of. I mean, the idea of just saying to your staff, yeah, go nuts and do some branding for the company, do some videos and make sure it goes out on our tagline. People, can you imagine the sort of list of rules that companies would have? No nudes, no twerking, no swearing, no shots through the
Batman.
eyeball. No, well, Batman's fine. Batman's fine. No Superman.
No,
No Superman, only Batman. Batman versus
what about
Superman.
He-Man
Batman wins here. Yeah, they're fine. They can come too. But this is what I'm saying. It's businesses need to realize that actually, we had this conversation the other day, didn't we, Justin? Many business owners are a different age demographic, and this stuff is completely alien to them, and they want many business owners understand that they should be embracing content creation and utilizing it, but don't know where to begin, or they might have tried for a bit and it didn't produce the things that they thought it would, so they've acted in.
Yeah.
I mean, you go on to iTunes, right, and go and have a search for podcasts from 2018, 2019, and search the business category. You'll be surprised how many of them stopped producing content about 18 months ago because they just did it for a bit and went, stop. There's more important things to focus on. And I guarantee you right now they're regretting that decision, because whilst there's nobody going into their stores and there's nobody interacting with them, their content is all they have.
Yeah.
Amber, just a question, because as a person who's now only learning, no, I'm not only learning. I mean, you've used tools like this, but learning to drive your message across this type of platform and not face to face as I'm used to. There's a lot of potential scary things that you're saying now. I mean, it's quite daunting that now already I'm thinking, because I've got a couple of clients that I consult small businesses, and I'm already thinking, okay, how should I create some content for them? But now you look at what it takes to be successful in that. Is there a way for people to ease into this? For the average non-millennial business person, is there a way is there somewhere where someone can hold our hands and say, okay, this is the way,
I would say, so there's lots of different ways we could do it. So one way of doing that is that some people are just not comfortable. They're never going to end up on a video. They'll be like, no, video is a no-go, right? But they may already have established business. They have an offline business. They've been doing business for many, many years, right? And they're saying, well, no. Youngsters can get on it. I don't want to go on it. And that's fine. And I usually would say to them, then find a face for your company. Then you employ a youngster, right? And it's and they drive your social media. So they do the videos, maybe they do the podcast as well. They'll interview the owner on the podcast as well, right? And so they become the face. And the point being that face is associated with that business. So ultimately it would benefit them. It will drive traffic to the business. They'll earn more money. But the point being, once they put a face to the business, now they're able to share their values, their opinions, their beliefs, and attract more and more people. And that's how I would do it if somebody didn't want to go on video at all. Podcasting was not their thing. They're like, no, somebody else.
I love that you said that, because you've just described something that we're in the middle of doing, and we always like to show behind the scenes footage what we're doing in our business. So this is a great example. Okay, so when it comes to LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, I'm cool with that, right? I'm fine with that. I've grown a couple of channels there. Instagram is not my thing, because when it first started, it was much more about selfies, and I am not a selfie kind of guy. So I mean,
I still don't have Instagram.
Shops, ching.
The reason why I downloaded Twitter is because of you,
Exactly. He got Twitter because of me. But this is what I'm talking about. But it's like Instagram was selfies and pictures of your food, and neither of those things were really interesting. I wanted to eat my food. I didn't want to take a picture of myself eating my food. It didn't appeal to me, right? And now there's a whole new thing that's just kind of bypassed me. TikTok is now huge. There's people with like 40 million viewers, and it's like, what's TikTok? So I started looking at it the other day. This is gospel truth, right? This is gospel truth. Yeah. I downloaded TikTok, right? I created an account. Yeah, man, I created an account. I started looking around what was trending, and I realized I don't know how to do this. So I went straight to Facebook, and I went into a Facebook group, and I typed into Facebook groups, TikTok contributors, and there's the people who list channels talking about content, and I put in a post and said, this is what we do with a TV show. If anyone's interested in doing some collab work and getting involved doing some TikTok stuff for us, I'd love to hear from you. I had about 10 messages in the next 12 hours. That's how I'm going to handle TikTok, because I'm not going to go and learn TikTok. And I think my wife would kill me if I try and do any of those challenges in this house. She'd murder me.
Exactly. Eventually your kids will do. My kids are always like, Mom, you don't need to be on the TikTok. They're embarrassed. Even when I was in the Instagram, I'm not active, but I have an account, right? And they'll be like, why are you on Instagram? Because they all are, right? So they get embarrassed. So I have to be, picky with, what kind of content I put out there.
Exactly, because your kids are following you.
Yeah.
Amber, we don't have to worry about businesses having to migrate content to TikTok now, man.
Well, I'm currently not on TikTok, but I am definitely going to explore it. Just like,
Big part of it, dude. It's going to be a big part of it.
I mean, they are saying, it's the next big thing, and businesses. Actually, I read a very, very quite informative statistic just the other day. They were saying, because I thought, the people on TikTok, the audience is mainly Gen Z. So, so I was thinking, what can you actually sell to Gen Z? What can we engage with? And it turns out that I think half of the audience is 35 plus. I was like, no way. I couldn't believe it. Yeah. Yeah. I was like, no.
You know what they call that section at TikTok? At TikTok, they have two sections. They have Gen Z and midlife crisis.
Okay, there you go.
Sorry to anybody who's doing really well on TikTok. I'm just joking. But I looked at it for 5 minutes and was like, I'm gonna need to get someone else to do this.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I think it's good to be on it to get a bigger reach. So get on it, or get somebody else to it. Like you got somebody, and I'm going to do the same. Just get somebody else to get on it, so that we have some sort of presence on those social media platforms, because they are, the reality is they are going to grow, and there is always going to be a new channel out there. And I think the earlier you get on it, the higher the chances of expanding your reach, because it will be cheaper as well. Like Facebook, somebody getting on Facebook now, to get any sort of reach, they have to basically do paid advertising. That's what it's become. Whereas like 5 years ago, it wasn't like this.
Well, look, once we come back after the break, we will wrap all this up and kind of give you a few bite-sized information that you can take away. We'll see you then.
Africans Unlocked Season 1.
Welcome back. Okay, so this has been a really juicy conversation. Amber, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. Before we move on to the final points and just kind of wrapping up and then head into good news, where can people find you, Amber? How can people get in contact?
I think the best way to connect with me would be LinkedIn. So just go search for me, or I'm sure you could share a link to that. So that would be the best way to connect with me. Yeah, connect with me, DM me, because that way people can check out the kind of content I put out there as well. So, that's where I start off with, check out some of the content which is related to marketing or, stuff that we're doing. the charity work and all of that. So, and then of course, if they wanted any help with content repurposing, they could always check out repurposedin.com.
And Amber, we'll be able to find you on TikTok soon. Is that what you're saying?
It's the commitment. Listen, if I'm committing to a Smurf outfit, you're committing to TikTok. That's got to be the deal here.
Yeah.
And you're
true,
gonna come
true.
back and
Yes.
tell us more about it. And just one more question: what's a DM?
Oh, direct message. Sorry.
A direct message.
Ah, right, okay. No, just
It's
messing.
nice. It's nice having Justin here. It's like bringing your granddad into it. What? Where's the VCR player gone? No, we don't do that anymore.
Thanks to my kids, I keep up with the lingo, so I know all the Gen Z lingo. LOL, ROTL. Yeah. Thanks to my
Yeah.
kids, I know it all.
Do you know what? I'm not sure I could
I
keep
need
up.
our previous guest book.
You do need our previous guest has written a book called Zisms or Zedisms, as we call it, which is essentially the behavioral patterns of Generation Z.
Yes.
And it's fascinating. But you know what? I love it because we can't even comprehend their world. I mean, it's weird because you probably can't comprehend ours, right? Amber and I, we grew up in similar places. Justin, I imagine it was similar for you. South Africa was slightly different this time, so potentially not exactly the crossover. But I'll tell you how I used to know where my friends were. I used to cycle round all of my estate and look for where all the bikes were on somebody's grass, and then I'd know that that's where all my friends were. There was no WhatsApp groups. There was no just sending them a tweet. If you ever wanted to send somebody a video, you had to do it via a cable or music. You used to send each other music. It would take four days and use all your data because you'd have to download it all. There's no airdropping. That didn't exist. I remember when we had this thing called Bump, and do you remember Bump when we used to use it with Bluetooth? You'd bump phones together, and then they had to ban the app because people kept smashing the screens. See, they were real problems, people. Real problems.
Yes.
Not dropping below 40 megs. That's not a problem.
No, you gotta understand that I'm in Africa, so so I didn't grow up even knowing what bump is. I mean, the first thing I heard about that is near field communications. When you can do something, but bump, I don't even know what you're talking about. So yeah, no,
it was this awesome old app that you used to be able to. It was like a Bluetooth app, and you'd both have to open it on your phones, and you click on a song, and then you bump your phones together, and it would kind of recognize that was the device you were trying to send it to via Bluetooth. And it would then send them the thing. But it was great. But you got to remember, we didn't have like clunky iPhones that are built of steel that no longer break. We had like things that were like little flip phones that if you opened them too quickly, the top would fall off. So the idea of
I
smashing
remember buying
it.
my first flip phone. I was so proud of it. Because I think the Matrix had just been released and it made the flip phone so cool. It was the coolest device ever because of Keanu Reeves.
The Ericsson, and then later on I had that little blue Motorola with the little tiny screen that you'd flip up. Yeah, I mean, there's Justin's phone.
That's about.
That
was the size of my phone. When I was in Madrid, this is the size of my phone.
And the battery pack on your back in a rucksack.
I'm not that old, dude. I'm not that old.
Winding it up. Hello.
Yeah.
Amber, it's been well, yeah.
I'm saying I still have those ones in my parents' house. The dial-up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they live in Pakistan.
Oh, right. Okay. Really?
Yeah. So
Wow. Okay, so a couple of things that your son needs to do off the back of this. He needs to create you a TikTok account, and he needs to get Granny and Grandpa a new phone. Amber, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you here. I'm sure Justin and I have both gained an awful lot from this. I certainly have learned loads from this. It's nice to have some things reassured as well that we're going in the right direction. It's fantastic to create a piece of content. And inspired by you, I'll tell everybody where this is going, because then it'll show everybody what happens with it. So check us out on live TV, where you're probably watching this live right now, so you don't need to go anywhere. Good job. You can check us out on live TV YouTube channel, Billionaires in Boxes. Go and check out all the content on there. Also, keep your eye out for Billionaires in Boxes podcast, because the audio from this and the extended interviews and some special guest insights will be seen on there, exclusively to YouTube and podcasts. So go check those out.
Penso che un sogno così non ritorni mai più. Mi dipingevo le mani e la faccia di blu. Poi d'improvviso venivo dal vento rapito e incominciavo a volare nel cielo infinito. Volare, oh, oh, cantare, oh, 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 nel blu, dipinto di blu, felice di stare lassù. E volavo, volavo felice, più in alto del sole ed ancora più su, mentre il mondo pian piano spariva, lontano laggiù. Una musica dolce suonava soltanto per me.